All right. So, welcome to Mr. Bloom's bio. Going to go through a review of the second part of the evolution notes. The first part, everyone seemed to do really well on, so I'm not going to review too much on that. Overall scores on the quiz were great. So this is what we're going to, or what I'm going to do. First things first, though. There are still 3 terms that I want you to remember. Okay, so evolution, common ancestor, natural selection. Those are the 3 things that I want you to remember about, well, this whole unit. That, like I said, is a large part of it. But for now, let's get into our review. So, start off adaptations. There's not a whole lot to remember or to know about your adaptations. We have 3 main things: your structural adaptations, strength, height, etc. Physiological, being able to regulate internal temperature of your body, your intelligence, things like that. And behavioral, working as a group, active only at night. Excuse me. So that's your adaptations. Examples, we saw videos: camouflage, surround, blending in with your environment, mimicry, looking or attempting to look like another organism. So gene pools, all the alleles combined for the individuals in a population. Then we're going to look at natural selections in populations, the different distributions. Okay. Here's our normal distribution that we would see, normal population. Since we have 3 types of distributions that we talked about, stabilizing, your intermediate, favors the middle. So you will have lots of something that is middle of the ground, not left, not the right. So if we're looking at light, medium, dark, medium. This is our stabilizing graph here. It narrows in and it gets higher in the middle. Okay. Next one is directional. So this one will adjust either one extreme or the other. So either it will shift to the right or the left. This is what your directional looks like when it comes to this one. Again, like I said, is going to be either one side or the other, the dark or the light, not the medium. Then we have our disruption, or excuse me, disruptive. It will favor both extremes of the environment, the left and the right, not the middle. So as we move on, we're looking at the mechanisms next of evolution. Gene flow, which is movement of alleles between populations. So either they're coming into a population or they're going out. Going in is your immigration with an I, going out, emigration with an E. Genetic drift, random change in allele frequency that occurs in small populations. can be caused by natural disasters, so volcanoes, tsunamis, floods, something like those things can affect it, and it will change the gene pool and shorten or shrink that gene pool. Types of genetic drift, we got bottleneck effect. This occurs when population undergoes a huge decrease in size. So whether it's a natural disaster, predation, or disease, it will really shrink by a lot the gene pool. Then we have the founder effect. When a group or individual leave the population and colonize a new area, resulting in gene pools very different from the pools of the original population. So we have a population, lots of different alleles, large gene pool. When we have a few of the species that will move to a different, we can say, island, and those few will be considered the colonizers, the founders of that particular area, because to begin with, there were none of that species there, so they would be the founders for their species in that area. Sexual selection. This one was pretty easy. We talked about intrasexual, which is competition among males, winners. The winner mates with the females. That is your intra. We have intersexual. The males display traits that attract females. We looked at couple of those videos that showed dancing birds, their different colors or their different rituals that they'll perform, which kind of goes along with our courtship rituals that I talked about. So when it comes to Hardy-Weinberg, you will be given both of the equations that you need to use for this to find your information. You will be required to remember what the variables are. Okay, y'all had some practice on the worksheet. Many of you seem to get it very well. But I'm going to quickly go through the steps. Follow the steps and you won't go wrong. Okay, you'll be able to solve these equations. Step 1, you're going to find Q squared. You always want to start off with that. Once you find that, that is in the word problems, your homozygous recessive, the recessive trait. So whatever the two lowercase letters that would be in this situation, that's what you're looking for. Step 2, you're going to find Q. So you have Q squared. To get Q from Q squared, you need to do the square root of Q, Step 3, find P, and that is 1 minus Q equals P. Step 4, P squared. Once you have found P, you're going to just multiply P times P. You can use the calculator functions because you'll be provided a calculator. It'll be embedded in your the aware testing. Okay, and then your 5th step, you will find 2PQ, which is your heterozygous information or frequency, and that is simply multiply 2 times P times Q. So use the slides to help you out with Hardy-Weinberg. If you need to review the steps, see a word problem worked out like we did on the board in the slides, it's there for you. After the Hardy-Weinberg, we get into reproductive isolation. This is where organisms from two populations cannot pass on their genetic code through reproduction for several generations. These types of things will cause something called speciation. Not a new term. You should know by now that it is formation of a new species. whether the gene pools are too different to breed and produce fertile offspring, or it occurs through reproductive isolation of the population. And we have a few of those that we're going to go through, or that we already went through. Geographic isolation, natural barriers in place. Your species are unable to interbreed due to a river, mountain range, canyons, something along those lines that is keeping the species apart. Behavioral. Two populations can't interbreed because of different courtship rituals. We saw a couple of courtship rituals in some videos that I showed. So if they are too different, it's not going to attract a different species of the bird, if we want to use bird as your example. Temporal. Temporal is all about time. Okay, different times. So populations reproduce at different times. Whether we have fall versus spring or day versus night, different times. Mechanical. These are structural differences. The slides will tell you square peg, round hole kind of thing. Differences. And we also saw post-zygotic, which is a hybrid inviability. So hybrid embryos do not develop properly. The adults do not survive nature, or hybrid adults are sterile or have reduced infertility or reduced fertility. Then we have three more things we're going to cover. That is our patterns of evolution. Our first one, convergent. Convergent, as we talked about, means they come together. Unrelated species will evolve to have similar characteristics. Our next one is our divergent. Divergent is splitting apart from each other. So closely related species will evolve in different directions from each other, becoming increasingly different from each other. Then our third one, co-evolution. Two or more species evolve in response to changes in each other. Our example that we saw a video on was the ant and the tree. The ant playing protector of the tree, keeping the predators away that's eating the leaves, or keeping the vines from attaching to the tree and trying to block sunlight. The ant takes care of the tree. The tree is going to provide a source of food and shelter in return. So that is our review in a nutshell. Hopefully this helps, and I've also put a quizzes on Canvas for you to review, to help you out. I also have a keyed copy of the test review on Canvas for you to look at as well.